Thank you very much, Dusty. And if you're wondering who is the Grayson County Historic Commission's Historic Marker Chairperson, come talk to me. We are always trying to support more markers. Now I suspect something that a lot of people have been waiting for. Now for the historical background of the Sherman Riot of 1930 in a few succinct words is the applicant, Miss Melissa Cole.
Kurt, how long I could go, because I've learned with him forgiveness is better right than permission. So everybody hang on, it's going to be a minute. I've been waiting for this. We did it. We did it. It's been a long time coming, and a lot of people worked really hard. If you worked on this at all, or a part of this, raise your hand. Just raise your hand for me. Look around. Look at the people. This is what it's all about. All different backgrounds, all different political affiliations, pulling in the same direction to do the right thing. And we did it, and we're here today. And it didn't take a month, and it didn't take a year or 2 years, but it took 5 years. And it was worth it. And we're here today, and we're doing it. We're doing the thing. I'm going to go over the history very briefly because there's a lot. I want you to think about 95 years ago. Where we sit today, there was a very different crowd here, and it was real, and it happened. George Hughes was a black man working in the area, and he was accused of assaulting a white woman. You know, a story we hear time and time again in the Jim Crow era. He was brought here May 9th, 1930 for a court date that he never got. He was brought into the courtroom, but there was a crowd of about 5,000 people here, and they were wanting to get to George Hughes. And they made their way into this court, not this courthouse, the courthouse before, but they made their way into the courthouse, and eventually they set that courthouse on fire. George Hughes had to make a horrible, horrible choice. He either was going to try to escape that burning building and be in the hands of a mob, which you don't want to fall into at the hands of a mob, or he would be put in a fireproof vault and try to make it through the fire. And he was put in that vault, but he would never come out alive. It was believed he suffocated in that vault. The courthouse burned down through the afternoon, and as it cooled, the mob wasn't done with him. They blew a hole in the side of that vault, they threw his body to the ground, tied him to the back of a car, and drove over to Mulberry Street. Now that was not an accident. The Black Business District was on Mulberry Street, a thriving Black Business District, especially in the Great Depression during Jim Crow, doctors, lawyers. There was the Andrews Building, the theater. It was an amazing Black Business District, and they brought George Hughes there. They hung him on a tree, set him on fire, and then completely burned down the Black Business District. There was an insurance clause that said any damage due to a riot would not be covered. So all of those business owners, they lost their business that day and to never be rebuilt. Many people left. Many black citizens left, not to come back, scared for their lives. The courthouse was rebuilt several years later. One thing I want to point out, this was 95 years ago, but there's still history here from that day. This current courthouse was built around the vault where George Hughes died. That vault is still here, and there's a piece of that history that shows us a man died here, and the history of people lost their livelihood. You know, I took a business over from my dad, and I think about what a blessing that's been to me and the loss of that generational wealth that happened that day and how it affected a whole community. So that's something, you know, for us to remember. Also, no one was ever charged for the murder or lynching of George Hughes. That justice for him never occurred from May 9th, 1930. I think it's important we remember this was 95 years ago, but this history wasn't forgotten. This isn't a forgotten history. This is a hidden history. Dr. Cummings, you can attest to that. There have been people before that have tried to get this marker, tried to talk about this history. There wasn't any support. People were ran out of town. Things went missing from Austin College. Names were cut out of newspapers. This history was hidden intentionally. I was told that if we remembered this history, it would divide us. We can't handle it, right? We as a group, we can't handle this history, but it didn't divide us. I stand here today to tell you it united us. There has been so much good that has come from this. I want to give a few examples. It took 5 years, but those 5 years we were doing work, and there were people in this community that were doing work. Grace United Methodist Church. They've been a huge supporter of this. They started a George Hughes Memorial Scholarship. So Grayson County seniors, they learn about the 1930 Sherman Riot. They write about it, and they talk about how it affected us in the past and how it affects us now, and they give money to go to college. The Sherman Public Library had a mural of lawyer William J. Durham on the very street where he lost his law office, and on the very street where we said this is too hard to talk about, there's a painting of him. We've come a long way in 5 years. We've gone to the Denison schools. We've talked to middle schoolers. And finally, one of the things that stands out is Grayson United. They did several Black Business District walking tours where we actually go to Mulberry Street and we honor those people who lost their businesses, and we look at where it was and we realize these were real people with real businesses. This is a real story, and we honored them by doing that walking tour. Not only does this bring us together, but one thing that has come from this history, and I think Gary might have talked about this, and no, Kurt does. We talk about the people that rose from the ashes. You can't talk about the bad and not talk about the good. So when we talk about the victims and the horrible things, there were people that day that did some really amazing things. I'm going to touch on 3 of those very shortly, and you'll also see their pictures up in the reception room. I mentioned lawyer William J. Durham, an amazing man. He saw his law office burned to the ground. He went on to be a great civil rights lawyer. He fought for voting rights in Texas. Black people could vote in primaries because of William J. Durham. He also worked with Thurgood Marshall to desegregate schools. Thurgood Marshall came to Sherman to work with William Durham. And I can't imagine seeing his law office burned down, what that did for him throughout the years to motivate him to do the things he did. And that came from the Sherman Riot of 1930. Salem Sophie. I love this story. He lived over by the Black Business District, and the mob had come down into the residential area, and they were going to burn down Black people's homes. And Salem stood in front of the group and said, "Hey, I own these houses. People are renting these houses. Please don't burn them down." And everybody left, and they didn't burn down those houses. But Salem Sophie didn't own a single house. not one. But he stood up in front of a mob and was like, "Not today." And he did it for people that looked different than him. I think he's an amazing man. He needs to be talked about. The last person I want to touch on is Father Laughlin. He was the rector at St. Stephen's from 1928 to 1932. And after the riot, it was a stain on the community, and nobody wanted to talk about it. And it was hush hush, and we don't talk about this now. But Father Laughlin got up and preached against the riot and what happened. He brought in a guest speaker to preach against it. And I guess probably you can guess how this ended for him. He left town. They wanted him out of there. And he lost his position in the church, but he didn't care. He stood up, said what was right, and did what was right, no matter what the cost was. And it's people like that we get to talk about because we recognize this history, and there's heroes from that day that need to be recognized. I thought about, what do I say at this moment? There's a few questions I get, just a couple that I want to talk about real quick. One is, why is this history important to remember? I think when we talk about George Hughes and we talk about those Black business owners, we honor them, we remember them. It wasn't for nothing. They didn't lose everything. Someone didn't lose their life, and we just don't talk about it and don't remember it. When we do that, we honor them, and we honor the heroes from that day. And it's important to remember that these were real people that lost everything that day. And the second reason is, when we know better, we do better. We're never going to do that again. We know the consequences of racism and hatred, and we're educated on it now. We've had 5 years to really learn this history. And when we do better, our kids benefit from it, and so do our grandkids. So we promise to do better today and in the future. And that's why it's important to remember this history. My biggest lesson from this, I think, is you stand for what is right, no matter how hard it is and no matter how long it takes. And when you do that, people stand with you. So I'm going to leave you. We got to have an MLK Jr. quote, right? We can't do this without one. And I have a favorite, and it fits today really well. So let me read this to you. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by bad people, but the silence over that by good people. Today, the Grayson The people of Grayson County are the good people that do not stand in silence. And I'm proud to be a part of that community. I would do this all over again. It was so worth it. And we're going forward in the future, and we're going to do better, and we learn more. And I'm just so proud of this community. Thank you.
That's the right, yeah.
Okay, that's a tough act to follow.